Hello, friends. It's Cheri here. I hope you all are blessed today and having a very good day. Here where I am, it's sunny, but it's cold. I think it's like 40 degrees, but it's really windy. And my husband and I have been out today, and so I'm just blessed by all the sunshine because we haven't had sunshine in like a week. So I'm just blessed by all the sunshine. But I wanted to get on here and just talk to you all a little bit about something that's been kind of a topic of conversation this week, just with my husband and myself. And then I have seen it on Facebook a couple of times. And it's about burial. A lot of people, Christians, believe that we need to be buried instead of cremated or whatever, and that the Bible teaches us that, or that it's the will of God for us to be buried instead of cremated. But there's just really nothing biblically to support that theory, that if you're a Christian, you must be buried. The people in, like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they were buried in the land of Canaan because that was the land that the Lord had promised to Abraham. And so he wanted their bones, their bodies to be buried in the land so that they could claim the inheritance to that land. Because you have to be of a land to inherit it, So anyway, but that has no bearing on whether we should be buried or cremated at our death. I used to think kind of along the same lines, that Christians should be buried, that we should all be buried. Because I used to think that our flesh bodies would be resurrected in the end, and now I don't believe that. I believe the Bible does not teach that. But really, when a person is cremated, all you're doing is you're skipping the decomposition process of the body lying in the grave and decomposing there and turning to ashes, which is what happens eventually. And then you have, like my stepmom pointed out, you have people who are, who die at sea, and, you have fish and different things that feed upon the body, so, and that it's not a sin for that to happen. So, being cremated is not a sin. It's not something, maybe the pagans did that. They burned their children and they made sacrifices to their gods. They would sacrifice them alive. So they weren't doing it as a process of death. So it's something I've been thinking a lot on lately because, I used to think that I'd prefer to be buried, but now that I'm thinking about it, the cost of burial compared to cremation is, it can't even be compared. Cremation is so much cheaper. And really, we're just skipping that decomposition process. We're turning to ash and we're returning to the earth, which is what, God said we were to do. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and we should turn to the earth. We should return to the earth. And so I know that it doesn't matter if you're buried or cremated. If you're a Christian or not, it doesn't matter. I'm leaning more towards cremation because it's cheaper and just something about being in, I don't know. I don't know. There's just an aversion I have to burial. But, if I was cremated, I probably would want my ashes to be buried with my husband. So I just wanted to get on here and just say, it doesn't really make a difference. There's nothing biblical about, nothing in the Bible about it. But, a lot of Christians think that their bodies are going to be raised on the last day and be glorified. And that's not, our flesh is our flesh. It's dead. It's what kept us. It's what keeps us imprisoned, and it takes away, everything about who we really are from us. So it's, and the Bible does say that no flesh will inherit the kingdom of heaven. So we must remember this, that no flesh will inherit this. So it's our bodies are, and who we are, is inside of this flesh, and this flesh imprisons who we really are. And we must remember that I know people are saying that we're going to be raised and resurrected like Jesus was, but, he was the Son of God, and yes, we will be raised with him, and we will be like him, but not in the flesh. Our flesh is not going to be glorified because not at death. Our flesh right now is glorified. See, he was raised in a glorified body. Okay, and people don't understand that what Christ did for us, he glorified our flesh now. Our flesh now is glorified. We are made like him because of him, because he is in us, and he is what makes us righteous and glorified in the flesh. But at our death, we're just going to be, who we are inside. This flesh will die, and then our real selves will live eternally with him. So that doctrine really, a lot of the doctrines that we have are silly when you look at the Bible and really read it and see what's really happening there. That a lot of these things have just been brought into the churches and taught, and people believe that instead of reading their Bibles. So there's nothing wrong with being cremated. If that's the way you want to go. People say, well, I have an aversion to fire. Well, your flesh is dead, so you're not going to know you're in the fire. So I want to make things as easy as I can for my family, and I don't want to bog them down with all these bills from burial and funeral, so I've decided I think I want to be cremated, and then I want just a memorial service in my home for my family and friends and people that want to come, and just a celebration of my life, and not, when you're sitting there in a funeral home and the body's in front of you, you can't help but to grieve, and your heart just breaks, I know with my own situation that when my mom passed, that it was so hard just because, seeing her there, that was like the hard part. And then when you take them to the grave, then it's like so final. But then like my husband's grandma, when she passed, there was none of that because she donated her body to science. And so all we had was good memories, and we didn't have the memories of that body. And, that's nightmarish stuff there, to see your loved one laying there like that. So I've chosen to do it differently. And there's nothing wrong with it. I know a lot of Christians believe there is. But there's not. So those are just my thoughts on that subject. And my husband just walked in from the store. So I don't know what all your thoughts are. Just leave some comments if you'd like to do that. I just don't see anything wrong with cremation at all. That it goes against it doesn't go against God or anything biblical at all. I mean, just because, that the people in the Old Testament went through burial, I mean, they didn't have crematories back then. So the easiest thing would have been to bury them. Life for them was very primitive. We must remember they don't have the conveniences that we have in our world today. We have all these modern conveniences that make things easy for us. So, all right, folks, I think that's all I have for you. Make comments if you like. Just be respectful, remember, to me and to others. And remember that God loves you, and advance His kingdom, because His kingdom is here. And how we advance that kingdom is by loving one another. Love your neighbor as yourself. Treat others as you wish to be treated. Those are the golden rules. That's what's going to advance the kingdom here. All right, folks. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Mwah.